Hello and welcome to Devil's Advocate. Is Benazir Bhutto making a mistake talking to General Musharraf? That's one of the issues that I shall raise in a special two-part interview with the former Prime Minister of Pakistan, Benazir Bhutto. Ms. Bhutto, you've been talking to General Musharraf for a year. For the last 6 weeks, there's been intense speculation that a deal is in the offing, yet it hasn't materialized. Will it happen or won't it happen?
Well, the Pakistan People's Party and I have been involved in a struggle for the democratic rights of the people of Pakistan. And we have been examining and exploring whether a transition to democracy can be made through the holding of fair elections, open to all political parties and all political leaders. We haven't still got to a point where there is an agreement. Many people on General Musharraf's side in his ruling party oppose any democratization of Pakistan, and so there isn't an agreement yet.
Are you hopeful that there will be one, or are you beginning to feel that there won't be one?
Well, certainly the time is running out because we are all headed towards elections, but the window is not totally shut.
So the window is still open?
So the window is certainly open.
All right. In the belief that the window is still open, let me put it like this. For 4 decades, the Bhuttos have been identified with democracy and opposed to military rule. You've been to jail in that cause. Your late father paid with his life. Why today are you negotiating with an army dictator?
Well, you know, this is a very good question because people should remember that we have used every platform for our people and their democratic rights. Whether it's the platform of the streets, whether it's the platform of parliament, or whether it's the platform of dialogue. I want to remind you that General Ziaul Haq went and visited my father in Murray in 1977 to seek political settlement, and my father met him. But he did not agree to the dictatorship, and I have not agreed to the dictatorship. My husband spent 8 years in prison. I too could have given foreign guarantees and had all the charges against me dropped and lived in comfort in a foreign land. But I chose not to. I chose to face the consequences of opposing a military dictatorship. So please make one thing clear, that this is for democracy and for the people's rights.
Well, you say it's for democracy. Your critics in Pakistan turn around and say this is just for yourself. They say that she's only courting General Musharraf because she's desperate to get the charges, the corruption charges against her dropped.
Well, that's wrong, because if I wanted the corruption charges dropped alone, there would be no problem, would there? They'd be only too happy to do it as they dropped the corruption charges against Mr. Nawaz Sharif and remitted his sentence.
What about the fact that you're also extending a lifeline to a dictator?
One minute. They also dropped the corruption charges against the interior minister, against the president of the ruling party. So if it was an issue of corruption charges, they would have been dropped, and my husband and I would have led a very smooth life with our 3 children. But we didn't. We were buffeted by storms because we stayed true to the people of Pakistan.
Okay, but what about a second criticism made, that in fact you're extending a lifeline to a sinking dictator? Arguably, without your support and your PPP party support, General Musharraf wouldn't be able to retain his presidency. So at this moment, when he's anyway on the run and falling, why are you supporting him?
I think that the question needs to be reframed, because we are not supporting him. We are supporting a transition to democracy. We are supporting the holding of fair elections, and we are supporting the election of a parliament that can be viable.
Can I quote you what you said to the Sunday Times in Britain just 6 weeks ago on the 22nd of July? You said, Musharraf has lost his moral authority. His popularity ratings are down, and it would be very unpopular if we saved him. We would lose votes by being associated with him. Today, that's exactly what you're doing. You've reversed your view. Why?
I don't reverse my views, Mr. Thapa. I have a very clear mission of where the party is going, a sense of mission of where I want to go, of where the party should go, and a vision of where my country should go. I don't believe in a uniformed presidency. And when I was asked the question relating to a uniformed presidency, I said this is not possible for us. He is very unpopular, and that is what the IRI, the International Republican Institute polls also show. But Pakistan is an important country. Pakistan is facing a threat from within. And it is very important for us in Pakistan to move in a manner that can get the country elections. And I think that this dialogue of ours for democracy has also precluded, at certain critical moments so far, the imposition of emergency in the country.
I hear what you're saying, and you're suggesting that the deal that's in the offing is in the interest of Pakistan, but your own party supporters, when they found out for the first time that you were talking to Musharraf, were perplexed and disheartened. Even newspapers like the Daily Times, owned by members of your party, supporters of your party, former MPs of your party, are now commenting that you've gone soft, that you've compromised.
Well, people are entitled to their own views, Mr. Thapar, but at the end of the day, you have to be judged by your people, and you have to be judged by the forces of history. The people of Pakistan support me. The people in my party believe in my leadership, and if any of them were disgruntled, they would not be applying to me to give them tickets in the forthcoming general elections. If they thought this was the wrong policy, they would be going to other people to get the tickets. And the very fact that we have so many people interested in obtaining the tickets from the PPP shows that the PPP struggle for democracy is understood by the people of Pakistan. The PPP mission to eliminate poverty and unemployment and control inflation is understood by the people of Pakistan.
Those are, of course, noble sentiments, and any politician would express them. But what about the fact that
I don't think any politician expresses them.
Most politicians do.
No, I don't see that.
All right.
I see most people talking about a power struggle, talking about lifelines to dictators. People don't really talk about the people who are suffering.
Let me bring up another aspect. People say that Benazir Bhutto is doing this under American pressure. She's obliged by the George Bush administration to extend a helping hand, and therefore she's come under American pressure.
I'm not under American pressure. I'm under the pressure of the people of Pakistan who want their democratic rights, their social rights, their economic rights. Certainly, General Musharraf is a key ally of the United States in the war against terrorism. And the United States has interest in the stability and welfare of Pakistan. But I'm a Pakistani leader, and I've been struggling for the people of Pakistan. And I've, in fact, been lobbying very hard for Washington to review its policies and support the democratic process in Pakistan.
Can I interrupt at this point? You say you're a Pakistani leader, and of course you are. And yet, Richard Boucher was in Islamabad over the weekend. John Negroponte will be there on Wednesday, and they're all lobbying for this deal. To Pakistanis, it suddenly looks as if you're an American ally, and today in Pakistan, to be an American ally is an extremely unpopular position. Aren't you endangering your independence and credibility by this close association and this impression that you're under American pressure?
I know that some people are trying to create this impression, but it's wrong. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, Mr. John Negroponte, Ambassador Boucher have been visiting Pakistan many times. Pakistan is a key ally in the war against terrorism.
But now they're lobbying for you.
That's what you're saying. I've never heard them say they're lobbying for me.
The papers are saying it.
I think that's wrong. I think it's absolutely wrong. It's kind of the smear campaign that is carried on by fearful political leaders. Let's get the fact, and I want you to wait till you get the fact, which is that Pakistan has a situation in the tribal areas. NATO troops in Afghanistan are being persistently attacked by pro-Taliban forces who run across the border into our area. America has threatened to take unilateral action. There are very many important issues.
So this allegation embarrasses you?
Peace. It does not embarrass me, but I think what you're trying to do is cover up the fact that there's a war going on. And I find it very strange that you would not like me to talk about the war.
I'll come to that in a moment's time.
Going on.
But let me bring up one other aspect.
Just 1 minute, Mr. Thapar. Whenever Mr. Boucher has been to Pakistan, he has met with Maulana Fazlur Rahman. He has met with the leaders of the MMA. They have gone to Washington. Washington is the world's only superpower. It is giving Pakistan $10 billion in aid. And I am not at all embarrassed about the fact that I am a Pakistani leader who can speak up in the United States, speak up across the world, speak up about the need for democracy for my people, and I've been doing that. But the reason people speak to me is because I am the majority leader of the people of Pakistan.
Then let me put this
to you. The poor and shirtless people of Pakistan, who many would like to ignore, support me.
Okay. Let me
and
put
they
this
are
to
my
you.
strength.
The worst outcome of the talks that you're having with General Musharraf, regardless of whether they lead to a deal or whether they don't, is that today in
Don't
comparison...
use the word deal, because a deal
understanding,
means something,
arrangement, whatever.
Deal means something, you know,
Underhand.
two parties coming. No, yeah, but
An arrangement,
underhand
an
and two people coming
understanding,
together.
an agreement.
If that was so, well, why wouldn't I do that? People ask. People like you, why wouldn't she do that when her husband was in prison facing the hangman's noose?
Let's withdraw
Somebody
the word
who
deal.
can, yeah,
let's
okay,
call it an
thank you,
arrangement.
thank
Let's
you.
call it
Very
an
nice of you.
understanding. Let's call it whatever you want.
You are being a gentleman now, you may continue.
But the point I'm making is this, that the worst outcome of this association, whether there is in fact a conclusion or not, is that in contrast and comparison, your great rival, Nawaz Sharif, today looks like the champion of democracy. He's gone back to Pakistan, he's faced up to arrest, and today, Pakistani polls are suggesting he's the most popular leader in the country. Aren't you losing out in comparison to him by trying to find a sideways entry back home? He didn't.
Mr. Karan Thapa, the answers must be longer than the questions. So you will indulge me as I answer you. That Mr. Nawaz Sharif has compromised his position by involving Saudi and Lebanese leaders to get out of prison. People contrast that with the heroism and courage shown by my husband and by my family in resisting the temptation to run and skip and have charges dropped against you. We have stood out for the people of Pakistan. We have stood out for a political system. And all the polls that are done according to a methodology show that the Pakistan People's Party and I are the most popular leaders in Pakistan.
More popular than Nawaz Sharif?
Of course, of course.
Even after his return and arrest?
Of course, that's what they show. Mr. Nawaz Sharif compromised his political position, and now after I announced that I would be going back between September and December, and after the struggle of the lawyers showed that the Chief Justice of Pakistan is independent, Mr. Nawaz Sharif chose to go back.
Okay.
But when the judiciary was under pressure and there was no hope of getting any relief from them, and the days were dark and dismal, those were the days that the Pakistan People's Party workers and other democratic forces stood the ground and kept the torch of democracy alive.
You sound almost poetic, if not lyrical. Let's take a break at that point, Ms. Bhutto. Let's come back and talk about the issue that you many times alluded to, that this understanding, this deal, as you hate to have it called, would be in Pakistan's best interest.
I don't hate to have it so called, but I do like it to be properly represented to your viewers.
Absolutely. Let's come back and ask you, why do you believe it is in Pakistan's best interest? That's in a moment after the break. See you then. Welcome back to Devil's Advocate and an interview with the former Prime Minister of Pakistan, Benazir Bhutto. Ms. Bhutto, frequently you've suggested that the understanding you're about to reach with General Musharraf is in the best interests of Pakistan. Let me put it like this. Why is it in the best interests of Pakistan that General Musharraf should continue as president for another 5 years?
I think it's in the best interest of Pakistan that the people of Pakistan should elect their leaders, that there should be a civilian president who does not wear a uniform, and that there should be credible elections in which the people get to elect a representative government to deal with their problems.
But all of that might happen without your being involved. How does your involvement make this more likely?
That's not true. That's absolutely not true. I think it was the involvement of the Pakistan People's Party through dialogue and through street pressure which has led to a particular situation in Pakistan.
You mean without your pressure, he would still be retaining his uniform, not even talking of shedding it?
Yes, I think if the pressure of the Pakistan People's Party had not been there, as well as of the other democratic forces, then perhaps the Chief Justice would not have been reinstated.
What about the flip side?
That was a very critical point in our country's history.
You played a role in that reinstatement?
My party was critical.
What about the fact that people say that Benazir Bhutto will also be the one person who ensures that Musharraf gets 5 more years as president? Without her support, without this understanding, we'd see the end of Musharraf. She's ensuring he survives.
Well, I don't agree with that assessment. I think that General Musharraf could be replaced by another general. I don't believe the jihadi forces are interested in the restoration of democracy. The jihadi forces that destabilized the Pakistan People's Party government in 1996 made sure that when Nawaz Sharif was removed, There was martial law, so PPP would not
Would
come.
you permit me a little interruption?
And no, you please let me finish. This is important for the people to understand our point of view and where we are coming from. In Pakistan, it's a battle between dictatorship and democracy, but it's also a battle between moderation and extremism.
Which is the more important one?
They are both important. They
But
are
at the
both
moment,
important.
you seem to be supporting the survival of the dictator in the belief that he's liberal like you.
I don't believe in the survival of dictatorship. I believe in democracy. And there have been contacts since 1999 which have not led to an agreement. Mr. Nawaz Sharif did sign an agreement with Saudi and Lebanese guarantees, and he left. If I had done the same, democracy would have died in Pakistan, and we would have had a situation like Hosni Mubarak.
By accepting exile and not doing a deal,
no,
you've kept the flame of democracy
My husband was in prison. I didn't accept this exile. I went into exile myself, and it was not a comfortable exile. It was once where I was dragged from one courtroom to another. I had litigation. I was slandered in the press. I had Interpol notices. I could hardly go from airport to airport without knowing when I would be arrested. If I too had said, why should I be troubled, and thought of myself, today there would have been no democracy in Pakistan. But I have fought for the democratic rights of my people, and I'm grateful to the people of Pakistan who support me despite the propaganda of my opponents.
The challenge that now lies ahead of you is this. Without a deal, if you don't get one, without an understanding, will you return? Because you could be arrested like Nawaz Sharif, you could face trial, you could end up in jail. Will you return if you don't have an understanding?
Yes, I will return.
That's a commitment?
I announced on January 5th of this year that I would be returning to Pakistan, and whether there is an understanding or whether there is no understanding, I will be returning to Pakistan. The reason there has not been an understanding to date is because I have refused to accept anything for myself. I have been fighting to get something for the people of Pakistan, and through this process of dialogue, I have ensured that the elections that were promised in Pakistan have not been derailed. There could have been emergency, there could have been the imposition of martial law, there still can be. But for these critical months from January to September, we have averted such a disaster, and we have done so because we have always kept the doors of dialogue open for a peaceful political transition towards democracy in our country.
My last question before we end this particular part of the interview, is there an outer date by when you will be back on Pakistani soil?
Yes, my party intends to announce the date on September 14th. We want to announce it from the soil of Pakistan. It is our country.
But by when will you be back? Is there an outer date for that?
They will announce the date of my return on September 14th, the exact date of my return on September 14th.
And whatever that date is, you will abide by it, you won't change it?
I don't change dates. I never announce. There's been no date announced so far, because once a date is announced, the date is implemented.
Ms. Bhutto, let's end this particular part of the interview there. Tomorrow I want to talk to you about the sort of relationship you would hope with the Indian government were you to become Prime Minister of your country for a third time, and you're thinking on the critical Kashmir question. That's tomorrow night on CNBC TV 18 at 10:30 p.m.